Hey there, Tuba Knights. It's your friendly neighborhood flash in the pan. Trying to get this knocked out before I get too sweaty in my garage here. It's early August in Texas, and if you know, you know. The topic of this video is going to be to paint or not to paint. In other words, leave your firearms factory, whatever the finish is that the factory sent them with, or go ahead and get your rattle can out or your paintbrush out or however you want to. Or maybe you have a cool actual airbrush and you're much better than I. I'm more of a rattle canner myself, as you probably know if you've been around the channel enough. I like to tape things up and rattle can. You can see I got a whole shelf full. I think it's fun. I think it adds a little more creativity or just something else to do within the hobby itself. I personally can't afford to go to the range every weekend and shoot, a couple hundred rounds. So for me, it gives me something to do within the sport, but it's also a lot cheaper than what I can afford or what others can afford to do, apparently. So for me, it's just something to keep myself busy within the hobby of sorts. It's kind of like reloading. If you can, I don't know if you can see them or not. Probably not, just out of frame. I do my own hand loading. Just something else to do within the sport itself that I find enjoyable. Not everybody does, obviously. But so the question is, to paint or not to paint? So right here we have, this is my hunting rifle. It's just a Remington 700 and 30-06. Now there's something to be said about not painting. So something that I like about not painting is when you start to actually wear the metal a little bit, and if you can see a little, and this is a stretch, but the bolt handle, the bolt knob, which gets the most use right on a bolt gun, is just starting to kind of show bare metal. And like if you go back to like early Global War on Terror, before they actually started painting the guns, right? You saw a lot of old M16s or M4s that, obviously had been around for a while, and they were starting to wear through that finish into the bare metal. And I don't know, man, to go back to like, I guess Boba Fett was the first one that really kind of, I won't say popularized it, but if you go back and watch the original Star Wars trilogy, and you see Boba Fett, he's all, his armor's all roughed up and the paint's faded and chipped, and it's just, it lets you know that guy's been through something. He's done some things, he's seen some things, and for me it creates a lot of character. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to firearms. I think you can develop a lot of character that way. But I think you have the opportunity, and actually I made a meme about it that I'll inject right here. So it's like, yeah, you can leave a rifle or any firearm, which whatever the factory coating is, or whatever, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We've done it for decades, and if it starts to wear down to that bare metal a little bit, like, to me that just gives it great character. However, when there's also something to be said. So like, and this is so speaking of early Global War on Terror, this is kind of what they did originally, but even this is a good example. So when you paint something and then you start wearing through that, like look at the charging handle. You see how the paint's wearing off because that's where you use it so much. Like, to me, man, that's pretty cool. But like, just in that meme there, if you can paint something and then wear it down to metal even after that, like that's like the character in that, and I don't like, a lot of people do this, and I don't agree with it, but man, you do you. It's whatever you want. It's your toy. Some people will fake that battle worn look. I don't like that personally, and we've talked about that in some of the other painting videos I've done. I don't really like faking that, even though I do have the kind of battle worn paint anyways. But I didn't. That's a little hypocritical, isn't it? I don't like adding extra wear before it's actually used. I don't sit there and scrub it with a greeny weenie or sandpaper or some kind of rough emery cloth or something like that to give it the look that it's been worn. And I like to actually do that. I like it to actually wear in. And that's what's so cool for me. And I'm fixing to paint this anyway, so it's still gonna happen. But I do like the fact that I've worked this bolt so many times that the metal's starting to rub, or the finish is starting to wear off, and I'm seeing bare metal. Like, it just gives it character. I've used the crap out. I've carried this thing, hours and hours and hours, stumbling through the woods looking for deer. So the question is to paint or not to paint. That's always going to come down to you, the user. I think it's something extra fun that you can do within the hobby that doesn't cost a lot. I mean, roll of tape, spray paints, $4 or $5 a can. This is $3 or $4, and you just sit in your garage, drink a beer or whatever, and tape your stuff up and paint it. It's something to do. Keep you busy in the hobby when you can't go to the range. So I say do it, have some fun with it. And the worst thing about it, like, so this guy, this is a pretty plain Jane paint job. But let's say we'll take a look at my Sons of Liberty. This is a pretty complicated paint pattern. It takes a little while to do this. But let's say that I get to where I don't like it. Well, all I got to do, some people, I've seen threads where they're talking, well, how do you strip the paint? Don't strip the paint, man. Just paint the whole thing a flat color again, just one color, and then start over. It's no big deal. One last argument for painting, and I should have thought of this earlier on in the video. It's the reason I brought this particular rifle out anyway. And if you can see the camouflage pattern of my hat, you know where we're going with this. This is my FAL, and it is painted with the classic baby poop camo. The reason they did that was that they found out during the Bush War in Rhodesia that this giant freaking 21-inch barreled rifle, the finish was all black. It was, arguably the original black rifle. It stuck out like a sore thumb when they were out in the bush. And so they started painting them with whatever they had laying around. In this case, it was, their Air Force paint, which is this baby poop green, and Air Force green, I think was the other color, I forget. Anyways, just to break them up when they're in the bush, so it doesn't stand out as much. And it's the same reason that we started painting these during the early GWOT, because a long black rifle like this, it sticks out even in the desert. So if you really want to go into the full stuff hits the fan scenario, it's still something that maybe you should do anyway. If you really want to go down that rabbit hole of what if, you want something that's going to stick out or something that's going to blend in. It also depends on your environment, right? But again, like I started to say when I started to finish the video, it's something fun to do. I recommend it. It's a good hobby within a hobby, just like reloading's a good hobby within a hobby. It keeps you involved in it, gives you something to do instead of just sitting around watching Netflix or YouTube. I'm just as guilty as the rest of you. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. Take care.